Hey, what is going on, guys? John here and welcome back to the channel. So today is going to be one of those days where I'm going to rant about some of the newest things with iOS 14 that I really dislike. Now, this is not your typical video, I guess. I'm going to be comparing 3D Touch and Haptic Touch together once again years later after it has been removed completely. And this is not to say that Haptic Touch is bad or anything. It's definitely worse than 3D Touch. That's pretty much all I have to say. But today I'm going to show you guys how bad it is compared to the real 3D Touch that it once was. Now, before we begin the video, don't get fooled by the 3D Touch that you have on your 3D Touch hardware devices. That's not the 3D Touch that's available back then when it was running on iOS 12 and prior. Now, this device over here is running on iOS 12 and this is running on the latest iOS 14. Now, this isn't the fairest comparison because the iPhone 12 does not even have the 3D Touch hardware underneath, but this one does. So if yours does react faster than my iPhone here, it just means that you do have the available hardware. It has been disabled from Apple on iOS 14. Now, like I said, guys, iOS 14 doesn't completely disable 3D Touch. However, it really cripples it down pretty much to nothing. So you guys will see it in this demo here. So why don't we go ahead and pick up the iPhone 7 here, which has iOS 12 underneath the hood. Why don't we go into settings here and just reconfirm that is running on iOS 12, and this is where we're going to see that a 3D Touch is available on this device. So we go ahead into accessibility, go all the way down to the bottom here, and we will see 3D Touch. Now, if you guys do tap on the 3D Touch tab option here, you will see a toggle for 3D Touch on or off, and a light medium sensitivity for how hard you want to press, and this is where you can press hard onto the item and it just pops out. So I typically leave mine on medium. Now, if you know if your device has it or not, this is pretty simple. If you are running on iOS 14, simply just jump on into settings, pretty much at the exact same screen. Although Apple has moved things around a little bit, accessibility is on the outside. Tap onto the touch menu here and it will say Haptic Touch. Now, if you guys are lucky, you have the iPhone XS and below, it will say 3D and Haptic Touch, but don't get fooled, this isn't necessarily 3D Touch. You won't have the option to turn Haptic Touch off. This one doesn't even have the option to turn 3D Touch on, so all you have is just to press on it and it should just pop out this little picture right here. There's really no force to it whatsoever. I can literally put my pinky or my finger on it and it should still just pop up the exact same way. This varies by device, but it is very different than the iPhone 7 we have right over here. So here we go. Let's go ahead and begin with this comparison. Alright, so first things first, we are on the home screen here, which is the most important screen. Every time we jump on into the iPhone, we do see this screen here, and we will be presented with all these other apps that are open as well as the stock app. So why don't we go ahead and start with the stock apps and what should we be seeing? So there's nothing really different here. However, when you do press onto the icons, this is when you notice that it's substantially quicker than Haptic Touch. So there we go. That's at least a second or half a second quicker than the iPhone 12 here, which by the way is pretty much brand new, whereas this device is like 5 to 6 years old and it reacts quicker than that. So really weird. So this is pretty much the same for every single app. So let's jump on into books, and over here we have something else. Yeah, it just pops up that much quicker. So let's try App Store. 1, 2, 3. And there you guys will see that it pops up a little bit quicker on the iPhone 7 here. So this isn't the most important thing. You guys can pretty much do the same here. However, you will notice that invoking the wiggle is a little bit different here. If you guys hold down on this one without pressing it, it will start wiggling for you to delete the apps. Whereas this one over here, no matter how you hold it, it is still going to toggle this on. That gets a little annoying if you do want to remove an app. Now, one thing to note is if you take a look right up top here, Apple has added this to just, I guess, take over what the wiggle was before. You can remove it or jump it into the home screen, which wasn't available on this device here because it does lack 3D Touch. So Apple had to put another menu in there just to satisfy those that want to have it wiggle. Now, in the end, the wiggle hasn't been removed. You guys hold it long enough, it will start to wiggle again. It just takes a longer time, so you guys will still have pretty much the same feature there. I'm not going to complain about that. So I'm not going to take too much time here. I'm going to run through pretty much all the differences that I see, and you guys can follow along and see if Haptic and 3D Touch is better. So on to the next one, which is Control Center. You guys will see here the control center is pretty much the same, except the icons and stuff are a little bit different. But to invoke all these little control center options in here, you simply have to press hard on it on the iPhone 7, whereas this one you hold onto it and it jumps in. And I guess in this case here, I do give it to the haptic touch just because I don't want to press too hard just to invoke the exact same things. And most of the times if I do press on it, I do want to jump in. That's pretty nice on the haptic touch side, whereas 3D touch you do have to press inside. And sometimes honestly I have to shift my hand around just to put enough pressure on it. So I gotta give it to haptic touch for this one. So if you guys follow along with me here, lock your device and you will see that the lock screen has this widget right here, and it's pretty simple to invoke live widgets. Just press onto it and it should move around. However, you guys will see that it is very limited to what it can do. It just moves around a tiny bit and then that's it. There's no pressure whatsoever. You can't adjust it by lifting off your fingers or pressing on hard to it. This is why Apple has removed these cool live wallpapers that are available on 3D touch devices. So take a look on the iPhone 7 here. If you guys see that I press hard onto the display, let it go just a little bit, you see how much movement and how much control and precision I have when pressing and just making the animation move. I don't have to lift my fingers up at all, whereas this one here, it literally does nothing. So that's one downside to 3D touch. Alright, now on to the next thing here that I really dislike about haptic touch is the fact that you cannot move around here. So you guys can see my notes for the video. If I want to move my cursor around, I cannot press hard onto the keyboard as I can with this. So that has been missing for the longest time and I really do miss it. I appreciate it every single time I use my older devices. Now the alternative to that is by pressing onto the spacebar. It is available on both devices. However, when you do press onto the spacebar, you don't have much movements to go down, especially on these devices. On here you actually have a tiny bit of room, so that's available. So if you guys want to see, pressing hard, it should invoke the cursor. You can move around but not by much before you hit to the bottom of the screen, and there's nothing at all for this one whatsoever, so you can't even move down. So yeah, 3D touch is definitely better than haptic touch in this case. Now on to the next one. This has a lot to do with hyperlink and hypertext. A lot of it has to do with Pop, if you guys know what that means. So jumping into the Mail app here, let's take a look at this one here. When you 3D touch or haptic touch into this one, you do get this little half screen with the menus at the bottom. Whereas this one, it'll give you an actual preview, which is called Pop. And if you guys want to pop into it, just press it harder and it should pop in. That's the downside of 3D touch and is not available for any devices above the iPhone XS. Alright, for the next one here, I don't have a comparison because I don't have some of the older devices that have this feature. But if you guys have the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS, you will see that there is a flashlight button right at the bottom here. Now normally this only turns on when you press hard onto it. It only invokes when you give it a little bit of pressure. However, on these other devices that don't have 3D touch underneath the hood, it pretty much invokes any single time you touch the screen. So if you guys can imagine that putting it in your pocket, your skin touches it a little bit and you have the flashlight running all day, and on the other side of it you have the camera. So there was a couple instances where I had my camera running the entire day without me knowing, and then the battery just completely drained out. That wouldn't have been an issue if you had 3D touch enabled devices. Alright, and then to wrap everything up, I guess a lot of it has to do with the games that I play. So I play Call of Duty, I play Mario, and a couple other games. That is way better on this device, although developers have been moving away from 3D touch and using haptic touch. I guess the developers had learned that with a lot of new devices, 3D touch is not available, so they removed it completely and is not even replaceable by haptic touch at all. So if you guys want to press hard onto the screen to invoke different weapons at different games, different menus and whatnot, it is not available on these devices. So it's quite lame, to be honest, guys. 3D touch is so much better with Mario Kart when you can select different objects, whereas this device you cannot do that. So it's way worse playing it on the iPhone 12 here versus on the iPhone 7. So guys, just to wrap up this video here, I gotta say that 3D touch has its pros. It has its cons as well, but not as much. So in the end, guys, I think Apple really made a mistake for those of you that really like 3D touch, and I probably gotta say those of us, because I really like 3D touch as well. Haptic touch does play its role and a lot of people use it more than 3D touch, but in the end guys, there are a lot of downsides to running a device without the hardware. So all in all guys, I gotta say that those of you that have the iPhone XS, you guys have the best of both worlds, although you won't be able to update to iOS 13 or 14 to really use the 3D touch capabilities. So this should wrap it up for this video guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you guys got a perspective of how bad and how good 3D touch is. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button right at the bottom there, and while you're at it, please hit the like button as well. Drop me a comment if you guys want to know anything else. Once again, peace out.